Alright, so to start out with the social network, we are gonna start out with a fresh Laravel installation. In this video, we are only gonna focus on the folder structure because this is gonna be one of the bigger projects. So one of the first thing I want to do is actually go into the resources file, and in here I want to rename this to index.blade.php, and then inside our routes I want to basically go in here and say index. Great. So now that we have that done, we can actually close down this file because we're not going to use the routes anymore. All of our routes are going to be inside the API file. The reason for that is because we're going to use VueJS as the front end, and therefore this file is the only file we actually need in here. So there's a couple of things we need to change in here, which we're going to do in one of the other videos, but otherwise we're not going to work anymore in there. So let's go in and rename, actually delete this component. So we want to delete this component because we need to basically just keep a higher structure of the code. So what we want to go in and say, we want to go in and say widgets, and in here we're going to say notification.view, which is basically just where we'll pass in some data for the notification we send to some user that has got a new post or new follower, actually just new follower in this case. And then we also want to go in and say inside profile header that we will put in the header, so we're creating this folder here. And then we also want to go in and create inside profile, actually we want to go in and say follow.view and unfollow.view. So that's the components we are going to have. Now I'm not going to create every single file for the pages, but we're going to create all the folders now. So inside pages we're going to have a folder called home. We're going to have a folder called authentication. We're going to have a folder called user. Okay, so I don't know what just happened here, but let's go in and actually delete this here, because we don't want to have a duplicate here. I don't know why this happened. Okay, so we also want to create a folder called user, and in here we also want to have a folder that's called we will also have a folder that we will just call admin, which is basically, an admin will basically just be someone that will be able to go in and be shown as an admin, and then you will be able to assign someone else as an admin. That's going to be a very simple system. The reason why we want to do this is just because I always like to have the admin system in. And then inside our home folder we're going to have the timeline. Inside the user folder we're going to have the user profile, edit password, and also inside the user profile we're going to have the follow and the unfollow component. Inside the authentication we're going to have login and register. Inside the admin we're going to have just the index file for the admin dashboard, where you can make someone else an admin, and then we might add in a future where you'll just be shown as a moderator admin on a post in the timeline. Okay, great. So what we want to do now is we want to go in and just minimize this file here just to keep a bit more structure. So inside our HTTP controllers we want to delete the authentication folder. The reason why we want to do this is because we are going to have our own custom authentication system, and that's because Laravel's authentication system doesn't really work that well with JSON response, so therefore we're going to create our own custom one by using the user model and the default migration table. And then beside that, we also want to create a folder called social, and in social we want to create a subfolder. Actually no, we want to create some files in here. So we want to create PHP artisan make controller auth login controller. Now create this file here, and then we want to create VueJS controller. I think one of the things I think is gonna be important is because I want to separate completely the authentication system and the user system, because we're gonna have an user system where we're gonna be able to follow on that. So it's gonna be a long controller if you're gonna have all inside one controller. So let's go in and inside social, actually we're just gonna have one called user controller. And again, the reason why I like to structure it up in folders is because it can be a very long system you might build on the long term if you're gonna extend this system. So we can have the user controller, and then as well we also want a controller called post controller, which is basically just going to be our small kind of tree or whatever you want to call them. And then we also want to have something called the follow controller and the like controller. And then as one of the last things we want to have inside in our main directory, we want to have something called the home controller. The home controller is actually going to be pretty basic. It's just going to be something that returns the view in here, and we're going to just return the view for the index.blade.php. So that's basically what it does. And then we're also going to grab in, actually no, we're not going to grab in all the posts, we're going to do that in the post controller. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next video.